Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday. It's 10 o'clock. It's time for 10 with Tim. Each day, Monday through Friday, we just take 10 minutes, dig down deep into the Word of God. We go verse by verse, and right now we're finishing up Genesis chapter 24. If you're an everyday watcher, listener with me, gosh, thank you so much. I really do appreciate. I really do appreciate your time. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your devotion to the Word of God. Whether you're live or you join me later, live or later, it doesn't matter to me. Most of you are joining me later. Many of you binge watch on the weekend, and all of that is okay. It's all okay. I just want you in the Word, and if there's anything I can do to help encourage you in that, I will do that. And I appreciate the way you encourage me. This makes me better as well. It makes me study harder. We're finishing up the story of sort of the wedding, the marriage, the meeting of Isaac and Rebekah. We are still there in the land of Abraham's relatives. We've gone to the house of Nahor, the whole family there, and we have now met Rebekah. The servant of Abraham has gone on this mission where the Lord led him straight to the family and ultimately straight to Rebekah. This is the easiest mission ever. We talked about that yesterday. Rebekah's a beautiful young woman, never been married, marriageable age. I mean, everything, God's timing is simply perfect. Now, at the beginning of our passage, we're starting in verse 28, where we pick up right here the action, the scene sort of shifts. It shifts from the servant and Rebekah at the well now to sort of the negotiations between the servant, Abraham's servant, and oddly Laban and Milcah. It's interesting how Bethuel kind of disappears here. Now he's present, and in the most important moment, he's going to be one of the ones that speaks. In verse 50, Laban and Bethuel reply, "The Lord has brought you here, so she can go." So ultimately, the father, Bethuel, has something to say about it, but it really seems to be Laban that this passage focuses on, and I wonder why. First off, the reason why perhaps is because Laban's going to figure importantly in the story later. I won't spoil any of that if you don't remember it, but Laban is going to come back. We're going to have other dealings with Laban later, and so we're sort of learning something about the character of Laban. Laban is Rebekah's elder brother. He's sort of introduced here because we didn't know about him, but now we're meeting him. I love how when he first shows up at the well, verse 30, when he first sees his sister, he zeroes in on the gold. He sees this bling. He sees this amazing gold, nose ring. Now, some of that just may be, she left home without a nose ring and now she got a nose ring. I mean, maybe some of it is just that. But I also think you're supposed to notice that Laban is the kind of man that notices wealth. He zeroes in on the gold. And that's very true to his character. So that's the first thing. We first meet him, his eyes on the gold. And you just get the idea that this is something of the man that he is. But also, Laban and Rebekah both are sort of, portrayed. You can tell they're related to Abraham, right? Because of their show of hospitality. Now, so far, just think about the stories we've read together and how important hospitality is, how significant it is the way someone treats the stranger, the alien, the visitor in the home. And in this case, Laban and Rebekah are so much like Abraham in the sense that they run. They move as fast as they can. The dust is flying. They are going to take care of their guests. And Laban falls into that pattern too. Laban is very gracious in hospitality as the scene shifts from the well to the family home. Notice it's Laban who now takes over, taking care of all these camels. Again, the servant brought, this caravan, this entourage of 10 camels. And with each camel, there's a camel driver. So there are multiple servants and there's a lot of wealth. Every time we turn around, the servant is bringing out more wealth, garments of clothing, jewelry, gold, silver, I'm telling you, it's just this amazing entourage. So the fact that Laban is capable of providing for 10 camels and all these servants, and of course also the servant of Abraham himself, The hospitality shown here is supposed to impress you with its extravagance. I mean, it's really nothing short of amazing that they're capable of doing this. In verses 34 to 49, what we see is just a retelling of the story. And in some ways, gosh, as a reader, I don't know if you were thinking, well, yeah, we just heard this. We watch the story play out, and then we hear the entire story rehearsed from the servant's mouth. I mean, he tells this story in detail in real time. He doesn't leave out anything. I think part of the sort of verbatim repetition of the story for the reader is supposed to help us zero in on the truthfulness here. This is exactly what happened. We know this what happened. And so now as the servant recounts the story to the family, to Laban, to Milcah, to Bethuel, we know that, yes, this is truthful. All of this is truthful. And also, all of this is the amazing providence of God. We know that the Lord has led him straight. And so now Laban and Milcah and Bethuel and Rebekah as well are going to understand that the Lord is in this. The Lord is in this. See, that's the thing. As you realize that the Lord is in this, that the Lord has led this servant here, and it's all about Rebekah and Isaac. We haven't even met Isaac, but it's apparent that this is a match made in heaven. In some ways, that puts a lot of pressure on the girl, And make no mistake, although Laban and Bethuel in verse 50 give their permission for the marriage, give their permission to give Rebekah to this servant, the ultimate choice is Rebekah's. And that's why I've been sort of saying, you're supposed to see Rebekah as sort of another Abraham here. Because Rebekah, first off, she's like Abraham in her extravagant Herculean display of hospitality, but also Rebekah is the one, like Abraham, who now has to respond to the will of God to leave everything. Rebekah, just like Abraham, has got to leave this country and go to another country. And she's never seen it. This is faith on her part. This is just simply responding to what she begins to understand is God's hand upon her life, God's plan for her life. And so there is this drama that builds as it comes down to asking Rebekah, do you want to go? It's in verse 58. They call her in and ask her, do you want to go? And in verse 58, she replies, yes, I will go. The Hebrew language there, Rebekah isn't just saying, yeah, I'll go. Her response is, I want to go. I want to go. I will go. I want to go. And so with this, Rebekah becomes another Abraham. She's leaving her country and stepping off into a future that only God sees. And I think is beautiful. Let me jump up. There is this blessing that they pronounce upon her, which is all about her becoming the mother of many millions. And so at this point, notice we've seen her be another Abraham. We're about to now watch her transition into becoming another Sarah. Because in these verses here, notice the succession. Notice the passage. Everything sort of moves over from Abraham and Sarah to Isaac and Rebekah. And so notice that they're coming off in the distance, and we see Isaac. Isaac is literally coming from Beer Lahai-roi. It's the well of Hagar, Beer Lahai-roi. Remember that? And so it's interesting that we mention that now. It's sort of a way of establishing Isaac as having no rivals. If Ishmael ever was a rival, he's gone now. Beer Lahai-roi, it belongs to Isaac. It's going to be the place where Isaac and Rebekah will live. I mean, all of this now is Isaac's. And Isaac is revealed as this man who is walking in the promised land and meditating. The word meditating suggests prayer, that he's a prayerful man. This story begins with the servant's prayer and now leads us to Isaac as a man of prayer. But also it's an interesting, this word meditating in the Hebrew, it suggests something to do with mourning. And then there's this reference to Rebekah was a special comfort to him after the loss of his mother. So there is this sense that he is here before God, but also nursing this empty place after the death of his mother. And Rebekah is going to come and fill that place. Rebecca is literally going to fill the place left by Sarah. She becomes the matriarch of the story. She becomes the new Sarah. And in this moment, it happens. Notice how, they say, hey, who is that? And the servant replies, that's my master. I'm in verse 65. That's my master. See, this whole story, the servant's been talking about his master, but the master was Abraham. But now he says, well, that's my master. So you understand? It's that complete passage now. Isaac is in the place of Abraham. Rebecca is in the place of Sarah. And now the story moves on with Isaac and Rebecca. Do you see that? Because the very next thing is going to happen tomorrow is the death of Abraham. Everything passes over now to Isaac and Rebecca. One more thing, where it says here, Isaac loves her deeply. Interestingly enough, that's hardly ever mentioned. The Old Testament especially is not a particularly romantic book, and we're rarely told that a married couple just loves each other. But here, this is real. Isaac and Rebecca, they love each other. It is love at first sight. So we now have Rebecca now in the place of Sarah. Literally, she's going to be barren for the first 20 years of the marriage, and God is going to open her womb, but we'll get to that tomorrow. We'll pick up in chapter 25, verses 1 to 26. What about that story? I like that story. Again, we broke it up into two. It's the longest chapter in Genesis, but tomorrow we'll hit 26 verses and move right through chapter 25. Have a happy Wednesday. The sunshine is beautiful. It's a little bit warmer, which gives me hope. Spring is coming. I love you all so much. Thank you for your partnership in the word, your friendship in life.